Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, day 355 of the current situation. And the autonomous communities around Spain are still deciding whether to open up or not for Easter time, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now let's get into the news, and still not really sure what exactly is going to happen at Easter time, whether the country is going to open up, whether some autonomous communities are going to open up or stay closed. Nobody really knows. As we can see here, the health department is asking for consensus in the face of Holy Week, and 9 autonomous communities are advocating limiting mobility. The Ministry of Health has requested this Wednesday consensus among the autonomous communities in the face of Holy Week after concluding the Interterritorial Council without having reached an agreement on restrictions against the coronavirus. 9 of the autonomous governments advocate limiting the mobility of citizens with perimeter closures during the vacation period. However, it will not be until next week when the agreed measures are decided. The communities in Spain that have already spoken in favour of regional closures are Castilla-La Mancha, Castilla y León, the Valencian community, Navarra, Murcia, Asturias, Cantabria, the Basque Country, and La Rioja. On the other hand, the Community of Madrid is not in favour a priori of this measure, as is the Canary Islands. So there we go, the country roughly split 50-50 when it comes to closing down for that Easter period. Places like Madrid, the Canary Islands, the Balearics want to keep it open, whereas some of the parts of mainland Spain, for example the Dos Castillas, want to keep mobility restrictions in place. So, do we open or don't we open? The president of Madrid, Ms. Ayuso, has absolutely no doubts when it comes to this topic. And as we can see here, she defends keeping the Community of Madrid open during Holy Week, saying that she is not in favour of closing anything. The Madrid president warns that opening or closing a community at this point does not cause more waves and supports that citizens can move freely to reactivate the battered economy. President of the Community of Madrid, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, has opted to keep the region open during Holy Week, allowing entry and exit from the territory. During her visit to Pozuelo de Alarcón, the Madrid leader explained that her decision responds to a clear objective, the economic reactivation. It is positive that there may be citizens who go to their second home or tourists who can come to Madrid to move the ailing economy, as long as the health recommendations are always followed at all times. So the Madrid president there sticking to her guns, keeping the Madrid community open and trying to reactivate the economy. Now, the 8th of March is just around the corner, International Women's Day. We know that last year here in Spain there were lots of demonstrations around the country for this day, and some people in this country even blame those demonstrations last year on the 8th of March as one of the reasons why Spain had such a bad first wave of the coronavirus pandemic. However, this year it's going to be different, and as we can see here, the government has prohibited all demonstrations for the 8th of March in Madrid for reasons of public health. The decision has been made after studying the routes, attendance forecast, duration, and places of celebration. So no demonstrations this year for reasons of public health. A pity they didn't have that same criteria last year. Now the debate over the COVID passport is starting to heat up. Some people are in favour of a passport, some people are against the passport. The government came out yesterday and defended the COVID passport, saying that it will not discriminate against the unvaccinated. The government has defended that the digital certificates of vaccination against COVID-19, on which the European Commission is working, will never discriminate against unvaccinated people who will be able to continue travelling according to health indications. The Minister of Health, Carolina Darias, also stressed this Wednesday the objective of facilitating and encouraging safe mobility through the certificate. It enables safe mobility to be facilitated. From now until it comes into operation, we will have vaccination in most of the countries of the European environment quite advanced. She said at the press conference after the Interterritorial Council of the Public Health System, in which it has been emphasised that its use will in no case be discriminatory. So it seems fairly clear we will have COVID passports, but they will not discriminate against people that decide not to have vaccinations. So fairly clear to see why indeed this is a hot topic. Now let's have a look at some of the health data. Starting with the vaccination plan, we can see that now 2.72% of the population have completed their vaccination, and 5.86% of the population has had at least one dose. Turning now to a map of the country, we can see that the risk level there says extreme, although it has been downgraded to high. We can see the total number of cases. The accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days around the country is now down to 159. There have been 722 COVID-related deaths in the last 7 days. There are currently 10,788 people hospitalised in Spain with COVID, and there are 2,709 COVID patients in ICUs, which is just over 26% of all ICUs in the country. Now, the royal family has been back in the news again here in Spain in recent times, again for all the wrong reasons. Nothing to do this time with the former king's tax irregularities. This time it relates to the current Spanish king's sisters who were vaccinated on a trip to see their dad in the United Arab Emirates. Two untimely coronavirus jabs have dealt another blow to the reputation of Spain's royals. The sisters of the Spanish king, Felipe VI, acknowledged Wednesday that they got COVID-19 vaccine shots during a visit to the UAE to see their father, the former monarch, who has faced financial investigations at home. The vaccination by the king's sisters was widely criticised across Spain. The two women would not have been eligible yet to get COVID-19 vaccinations in their home country. The sisters said they had agreed to accept the vaccines with the goal of obtaining a health passport that would allow them to regularly visit their father, who left Spain in August amid investigations into alleged financial wrongdoing. So another negative chapter added to the story of the beleaguered royal family here in Spain. Just one of the numerous scandals that have rocked this family over the last 10 years or so, but this one compared to the others pales in comparison. Now, the Balearic Islands government made property investors tremble the other day as they expropriated the use of 56 empty flats that belong to banks and investment funds. The Balearic Islands has begun the procedure to expropriate the use of 56 empty homes owned by banks and investment funds after more than 2 years since the Balearic housing law was approved, which allows this measure. The government will keep the use of these 56 homes, which will be used for social rental for a period of 7 years. The agreement has been signed by the Minister Josep Marí, but all the steps were carried out by his predecessor in office, Marc Pons. The housing law obliges the so-called large holders, those entities that have more than 10 flats, to include them in a public registry. The government can exercise the right to use these homes in exchange for the payment of a rent at market price. The registry has more than 1,400 homes, but now it has been reduced to just over 700 because the banks have chosen to start the sale process so as not to have to transfer the properties to the government. And this move by the Balearic government has caught alert in the sector, who say that replicating this experiment will raise housing prices. The owners of these flats also warn that the measures scare away investment and represents an attack on the right to private property. So a controversial move there by the government in the Balearic Islands. Some people saying that it is an attack on the right to private property. What do you think? Is it a good move or not? Let us know in the comment section below. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Peter Woods. I do not live in Spain, I live in Italy, but would like to ask a question. Are British tourists important to the Spanish economy? I have read it will make no difference according to the Spanish. British are only a small percentage of tourists. We all remember when Spaniards were marching saying no Brits. We do not get many British where I live, in fact less each year. Yeah, Peter, thanks for the comment. There has been a fair bit of debate about this topic in recent times, just how important British tourists are for the Spanish economy. We saw the other day that back in 2019, British tourists in Spain gave something like £18 billion to the Spanish economy. A lot less last year, obviously due to the pandemic, but the Spanish government is keen to get those £18 billion back into the economy. And that is one of the reasons why they're talking about setting up a special green corridor between Spain and the UK, and perhaps even doing it bilaterally if they can't agree on something similar with the rest of the European countries. So to answer the question, yes, British tourists are important for this economy. One here from John. Hi Stuart, enjoy your blogs. Having your finger on the pulse, do you think Spain will alter the 90-180 day rule and make it 180-180 or 6 months in Spain, 6 months out of the EU? So people who come to Spain for winter sun could stop for all of the winter, so generating more income for Spain in the off-season. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment and for the question. To be honest, I don't know. I saw a few other people leave replies to this comment and they said that it all depends on the Schengen area, so it's not necessarily a problem for Spain or something that Spain can manage by themselves. It depends on the rest rest of the Schengen countries. Could Spain do something bilaterally with the UK? Probably they could. We saw the other day, and as I just mentioned, Spain is trying to work out some type of negotiation for green corridors with the UK that they're doing apart from the European Union. So it might be possible, and it's definitely in Spain's best interest to try to work something out. One here from Cedric: foreign travellers allowed? Not really true. We were pulled up by the police at the border of 2 areas for accidentally crossing. Same rules apply to foreigners. The police records even British number plates and other details and enforce the same rules. So foreigners can enter Spain, can get to their location, and thereafter they are treated as any other local from that area. Yes, Cedric, thanks for the comment, and it is a little bit too confusing for me to understand. I said yesterday that I didn't understand what was going on. No entiendo nada. The European Union technically is open for travel. The borders are open except the ones here in Spain with Portugal, but the border with France is open and people can come down easily into the country. What happens when they get here? Well, technically, as you mentioned there, they become a resident of the place that they are in. So, for example, if you are in Alicante, you are technically a resident there, or at least you are treated like a resident, and you can't move to another part of the country technically in the same way that a Spaniard can't move to another part either. So if you come from France to Madrid, there's no problem. If you come from France to Alicante, there's no problem if you stay in that area, because as we know, Alicante is closed. So a little bit confusing, as I said, to understand exactly what's going on. One here from Margaret: closing Madrid won't do much to stop Madrileños from escaping, I don't think. I'm in the countryside in Soria, where a lot of people have second homes, and my neighbourhood was much more full than normal from March until September. At first I thought that was outrageous, especially given that Soria got hit very hard early on, but later on I realised that if I had a choice between being cooped up in a piso for months on end and being surrounded by nature and farms for some of that time, I'd likely have done the same. Yeah, Margaret, thanks for the comment, and it is very, very difficult to keep people from the Madrid community in the Madrid community. People have second homes all over the country. A lot of people come from places like Soria, and that's one of the reasons why they do have second homes there. They most likely still have family living there, and every weekend or every second weekend they like to get back to places like Soria, Cuenca, Albacete, Toledo, as I mentioned yesterday, to see their family, to see their pueblo, and get out of the big city. And you're right, being cooped up in an apartment in a city like Madrid can be a nightmare, and people are looking to get out and escape at any opportunity. And finally, one here from Simon: great show, mate. I do watch your show daily. A question that many are asking is why the autonomous regions are subject to restrictions that Madrid is not. Yes, Simon, thanks for the comment and good question. Why are some autonomous communities subject to restrictions that Madrid is not? Well, basically the answer is that they are using all of the restrictions that they can in those autonomous communities, and Madrid they're not. The central government established a series of rules and regulations and put them forward to the autonomous communities, and then the autonomous communities can decide how they implement those restrictions on the population. Some areas have decided to follow them to the maximum, and places like Madrid have decided to hardly follow them at all. And basically that's the way Spain works. 17 autonomous communities and 17 different ways to handle a pandemic. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.